really impressive. Who said that? Was that Mike?
Oh, Mike and
There's
Jean.
Laurie right now. So
So
Laurie,
yeah. Oh, she's back. Okay.
yeah, Laurie is back right now.
And
So
there's Brian.
Laurie, how did you and Brian meet?
So for people who like technology matchups. Now think about, this is the 70s, the late 70s, and there was this magazine called the Cleveland Magazine, which I believe still exists. And this is before, like the internet was going strong and that sort of thing. And they had these classified ads in the back. And it just so happened I had a subscription to Cleveland Magazine. And so this magazine arrives on my dining room table. And the main feature article is about people meeting through classified ads. I would never have considered that in a million years, but here's this article and they made it sound really appealing. And so I figured that the person has to have at least $50 to place the ad. That was a lot of money in those days. And they had to either be able to write something or know somebody who did. And it's a heck of a lot better than meeting somebody in a bar. So why not? And all my girlfriends were like, no, you have to meet him in a public place. You have to tell us when you're going, blah, 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 blah. But you know what? I went out with 6 people, including my husband, through that experience. And Brian was the only person after I talked to him, I just invited him over to my house because I could tell he was truth in advertising.
Truth in advertising.
Yep.
So we can spend all night on this, but there's lots of different ways I can interpret that, but we're not going there tonight. So now we found out how you found Brian. Tell us how you found Unitarian Universalism. Where'd that come from? We understand what you didn't like about the other religion you were growing up with. How'd you find UU?
So Brian and I ended up getting married 3 years after we met. And surprisingly, after a little while, not everybody is lucky in this regard, but I got pregnant. And so in my pregnancy, I'm just thinking, there's got to be some place to help with values and raising kids other than us just doing it all by ourselves. And I had tried, like Presbyterians and Lutherans and Methodists, and just nothing was working, and I had given up. So I'm whining to my friend Mary Ellen Wobeck. Some of you may remember Mary Ellen.
Yep.
She's a 3rd generation UU who used to belong to our church before she unfortunately passed away quite a number of years ago. And so she said to me, well, Laurie, why don't you check out the UU church? And I'm like, what the heck is that? I've never heard of such a thing. And I visited and I was home. I didn't know that's what I'd been looking for, but clearly I was, because it just really felt good.
So what about it appeals to you, Laurie?
Initially, it was someplace that had an amazing curriculum for what turned out to be our 2 sons growing up. And it was everything that I had hoped for. And then after a while, it was more about the opportunity to work with all these other amazing people in my congregation to make things better for our congregation and hopefully the world. It's just that being a part of something bigger than you are and having a community. Because you guys know me enough to know I love my work. I've loved my job and I love my coworkers. And I feel like I need more circles than just work, as much as I love and admire them. And so being involved in this congregation has given me that, and it's helped me learn and grow. I've done things that I wouldn't have otherwise done. Being involved in a strategic planning process, which of course they had that stuff at work too, but this, you could really, look at different models and choose how that was going to happen, as opposed to being strategic planned upon. It's just been a joy. It really has been a joy. Certainly there are frustrations, but it's been a joy.
So what were the sequence of events that actually got you involved in congregational leadership activities? How'd that all happen?
It's all Sharon Sternberger's fault.
All Sharon Sternberger's fault. You want to share that
Yeah.
story with us?
Yeah. Well, that was the first piece of it, because she invited me to get involved in the religious education committee. I don't have time, blah, blah, but I did. And then the other person's fault, who it was Steve Cadwell, because he was the one who got me asked as part of nominating to be on the board. And again, I don't have time to do that. And he's like, oh, it's just one meeting a month, Laurie, really.
And you believed him when he said that?
I did, my naive self. And then the third person was Lynette Cohen, in being involved in Sunday school in the congregation and working with the amazing other Sunday school teachers. That had been a joy too. So, and it kind of took off from there.
So let's shift gears now and go to the Colbert lightning round. So for those of you who are regulars to the show, you know that basically I cribbed this from the Stephen Colbert late night show, having watched it there one time. And knowing Laurie as I do, and she cautioned me about this as well, because she's such a good student. Laurie noted that she already knew all the questions. And so my insightful and energetic producer for this evening, Liz Kantor, said, hey, there's a whole bunch of other questions you could ask as well that come from other sources. And so she gave those to me. And so we've taken a combination of some of the questions we asked before, plus some new ones, so we can actually go through the Colbert lightning round. I want to emphasize, this is a lightning round. Laurie, this is not for long answers. It's not for, let me think about that for a minute. Claudia's going to ask it. You got to answer. Claudia, the floor is now yours.
Okay, Laurie, you've got this. I know you like to prepare. I like to prepare, but we got this.
Okay. Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the best sandwich?
I'm not big on sandwiches.
Okay. What's your favorite fictional hero?
Oh, goodness. See, this is where I don't do good when I don't prepare. Favorite fictional, let's just say Supergirl.
Okay. What is the scariest animal?
Humans.
Agreed. Apples or oranges?
Apples.
Agreed. What do you think happens when we die?
We're just dead. We're just gone. We live on a people's minds and memories, but we're dead.
What is your favorite holiday?
Thanksgiving.
What is your greatest extravagance?
Oh my goodness. I am not very good at spending money. What's my greatest extravagance? Traveling.
That's a good one. Okay. If you could listen to one song for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I would really have a hard time doing that because I don't have favorite things. I like variety. But one of them would be the Joni Mitchell song that's going to come up later.
Okay. And so describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
Verbs, action words. And they would be things like laughing, advocating, walking, reading, and gathering.
Nice. I started counting verbs, action words, but I then realized that those were not part of the same 5. It'd be all about action, which actually works for you as well. Okay. That was zippy. Back to you, David.
So Laurie, tell us about your ministerial search experience. So first, let's go before you actually get started here. How did it feel being voted amongst the most trusted people in the congregation?
Such an honor. Oh my gosh. There are so many amazing people in this congregation. There really are. And I just felt loved and appreciated, and that felt really good.
Has the process been better or worse than you expected it to be?
The process has been interesting because it's a UUA laid out thing, and there's lots of parts of it make sense, but it's very detailed and very at times tedious, you know, and there's timelines and activities and lots of work involved. So that sort of the process has been daunting but doable. The thing that has been an absolute joy is working with these 6 other people. This congregation has chosen a really good group because they all are completely committed to doing what in our minds is the best for our congregation. There isn't like territorial or you know, selfish kinds of things going on. And we all don't think alike, but we all respect that and figure out how to move forward through that. And that has been just a joy.
So how do you guys cope with Lou Salz's insistence on singing opera at the start of each of your meetings?
Well, you know, actually, it hasn't been the singing opera. It's been this wild hair that he has, you know, and we don't always see what he's wearing down there, but I've heard sometimes that maybe there's a toga going on, but I'm not really sure about that. But he has this COVID hair thing going on. It's just always there.
That's a toga. I had heard tutu, but that's the toga makes more sense. That's right. Yeah. So, what's the best surprise you've had throughout this process?
The best surprise?
Yep.
Well, let's see. I would say the biggest surprise is learning that in this round, it's been unusual, according to our consultant or our assigned person, Christine Purcell, that there are surprisingly few experienced ministers in this group of, you know, as I say to my poor husband, you know, why didn't you get, you know, the blueberries? I'm like, well, I can only buy what's in the store. So, you know, we can choose from the people who come forward, but there are certainly just bright and interesting and energetic people who are coming up in our ministry, and that's lovely.
So I didn't quite understand what you were saying there. So do those people like blueberries? Is that the deal?
Are really? I'm not making my point. Or are you just playing with me, David?
I'm playing with you.
All right.
If you had to do it over, what would you do differently?
With the search?
Yeah.
This is a really wise group. I can't think of anything that we would do differently.
That's encouraging to hear.
And what we knew when we knew it, I can't think of a thing.
Claudia?
All right. I'm laughing because Mark Weber put in the chat, kick Mark off the search committee.
Oh,
So
no.
when David introduced you, he started listing all of your involvement and said, oh, we could be here all night if I do this. And it's true that you are an inspiringly involved person. And I'm curious how you first got involved with the justice activities that you're involved in.
I would say the spark that really got me involved in justice stuff. And again, you know how the UUA has book reads that they recommend every year, usually one or maybe 3 books and that kind of stuff. So quite some time ago, they recommended the new Jim Crow. And so that sat on my nightstand for quite some time. And when I finally got around to reading it, I was horrified, in part because I figured, because like I had been involved in the Cultural Responsiveness Committee in my work and done all kinds of training and that sort of thing. And which kind of got me started in that realm anyway. But I thought I knew more than the average bear about what was happening in our country. And when I read that book, it was like, all this stuff is going on in my name, and it's not just bad, it's horrid. It kills people, it ruins families, it's a travesty of generations of people. And as Michelle Alexander says, there's no easy way to fix this. You can't just tweak it around the edges. You know, we need a movement to change this. And that's when I got involved. And it's all Eve Bendezu's fault, because she was the one who invited me to the living room of another friend of hers, saying, we just read this book too, and we don't know what we need to do, but we need to get together and do something. And so we formed a group called Puncture the Silence, Stop Mass Incarceration. We were involved in, again, there's so many amazing people in the world. We were involved in, we began the spring before the police killed Tamir Rice. So we were involved in organizing like protests at Public Square and shutting down the Shoreway for a few hours and some of that kind of stuff. So, so yeah, through all that, I have come to know so many people in the protest community here in Cleveland who I have such deep respect for. They are just amazing people. And then, you know, that led to, you know, there's a website that we collaborated with the archivists to do police violence in Cleveland, that people can share their stories. And then when the report of the people dying in the Cuyahoga County Jail came out, Puncture the Silence joined with Black Lives Matter Cleveland and a couple of other organizations. And within a week, we had 14 organizations signed on, formed the coalition, and got busy trying to interrupt what the heck was going on there. So that's part of it, you know, education, criminal justice, voting. There's so many issues. I don't know how anybody could ever be bored.
I agree. And so you've continued to be very driven, and I'm wondering how you stay motivated and driven in your activism.
Because this might sound maybe a little cheesy or something, but it's like I feel like I have so much privilege. You know, I have a really good life in so many ways, and there are so many people who are just chewed up by the system, and it's hard for me to just relax into that and not engage in some way to try to move it forward. And I know by myself, there's nothing I can do, but engaging with groups of people, you know, or as GCC says, organized people and organized money, you can make things happen. And so I feel like every day it's important for me to do stuff so I can sleep at night.
And I suppose quickly, because it'll get late, but I think that a lot of people have this feeling that there are so many justice issues that need to be addressed as their crises. And I could use your knowledge of how do you decide how to parse out your time? How do you decide what to have a hand in?
That's a really tough one. I think that it's a question of putting yourself in places where opportunities open up that kind of match with your with where your heart leads you. Like as an example, being involved in Puncture the Silence led to being involved in the Jail Coalition. Being involved in the Jail Coalition led to, well, you know, as being on the steering team, pick one of the groups that we're forming to help, you know, organize and facilitate that. And I'm like, bail reform. That sounds interesting. I learn more about that. I'll do the bail reform stuff. And so now I'm involved in this amazing group with the ACLU, the action team on bail reform. So that's sort of an example, is like when you start putting yourself out there, then one thing leads to another. And yeah, there's always too much to do. I mean, you know, the global climate crisis, the oils, you know, there's so much. And I regularly have conversations with myself. Well, as long as you're doing something, that's important, you know?
And I think those things, I mean, especially the global climate crisis and racial justice are deeply linked. I mean, you can focus, you can choose where you focus, but those things are so interconnected. Environmental justice is a huge problem. So I should hand it back over to David, but thank you so much, Laurie, for your insight.
Thank you, Claudia. Good questions.
So Laurie, last question for you before we go to break. Everybody, as you probably noticed, we're running a little bit over tonight. So we're going to go a little bit past 9 o'clock tonight so we can make sure we get your questions in. So Laurie, last question before we go to break. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Okay, I thought about this and I thought about this, and I'm just going to say my superpower would be being able to see systemic racism when it's in front of my face and being able to call it out. That's what I want.
Excellent. So gang, we're going to take a brief break now to get your questions for Laurie organized. If you have a question to ask, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Do not use the chat button. We don't go there. We'll get things organized for you to ask your questions when we return. But first, our mid-show, okay, past mid-show break with the song Carrie by Joni Mitchell. See you in a few.
The wind is in from Africa. Last night I couldn't sleep. Oh, you know it sure is hard to leave here, Carrie, but it's really not my home. My fingernails are filthy. I've got beach tar on my feet, and I miss my clean white linen and my fancy French cologne. Oh, Carrie, get out your cane. Carrie, get out your cane. Put on some silk. I'll put on some silk. Oh, you're a mean old daddy, but I like you. Come on down to the Mermaid Cafe, and I will buy you a bottle of wine, and we'll laugh and toast to nothing and smash our empty glasses down. Let's have a round for these freaks and these soldiers, a round for these friends of mine. Let's have another round for the bright red devil who keeps me in this tourist town. Come on, Carrie, get out your cane. I'll put on some silk. I'll put on some silk. Oh, you're a mean old daddy, but I like you. I like you. I like you. I like you. Maybe I'll go to Amsterdam, or maybe I'll go to Rome and rent me a grand piano and put some flowers around my room. But let's not talk about fare thee wells now. The night is a starry dome, and they're playing that scratchy rock and roll beneath the Macklemore. Come on, Carrie, get out your cane. Get out your cane. Put on some silk. I'll put on some silk. You're a mean old daddy, but I like you. The wind is in from Africa. Last night I couldn't sleep. Oh, you know it sure is hard to leave you, but it's really not my home. Maybe it's been too long a time since I was scrambling down in the street. Now they got me used to that clean white linen and that fancy French cologne. Oh, Carrie, get out your cane. I'll put on my finest silk. Go to the Mermaid Cafe, have fun tonight. I said, oh, you're a mean old daddy, but you're out of sight.
And we're back. That song was Carrie by Joni Mitchell. It's from her studio album entitled Blue, which has the 50-year anniversary of its release coming this June. I hate to admit it, when that album came out, I was no longer a teenager. Everything on the album was written and produced by Joni. It was her second album that went platinum in the US. And the song we heard tonight, that song Carrie, was a selection from Laurie. So Laurie, did you know about all this important stuff about the song and the album it came from?
I didn't. I've just always loved Joni Mitchell. And in this song, she refers to going down to the Mermaid Cafe.
Yep.
I have been in that Mermaid Cafe. You know where that Mermaid Cafe is?
Where is that Mermaid Cafe?
Island of Crete.
Where? The island of Crete? Is
The
that right?
island of Crete, yes. Mm-hmm. Yepper.
So I read a couple of books about Joni Mitchell, one of which was called Girls Like Us. That was a biography of her, Carole King, and Carly Simon. It was a terrific piece of writing and really informative. And to this day, I feel badly for Graham Nash. Yes, that's the Graham Nash from Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, who really wanted to settle down with Joni, but Joni was having none of it. In fact, the song from Crosby, Stills, and Nash called Our House was a song that Graham wrote about his life with Joni and the life he hoped to have with her. That's one you guys want to know right now. So, Laurie, you ready to take some questions from the audience?
You bet.
Okay, so our first question comes from, who is this person? Oh, I think I might know this person. Mary Ellen McNulty got her question in first. So, Mary Ellen, you're up first. What do you got for Laurie tonight?
Hey, Laurie.
Hi.
Talk to us about your work at FDR. Like, how did we start at FDR? What are we doing now? How do we even get involved with them?
Well, I'm gonna wind back a little bit because I'm sure many of the people on this call, not everyone, may remember when we were First U, we had a long time relationship with John Raper School in the Cleveland schools, which was through, I think, some kind of interreligious network or something. And so that went along swimmingly until the Cleveland School District closed that school. Crisis. And so they tried to keep the program going. And I'm not telling you anything, Mary Ellen, because you were involved with that at the time.
Then they changed to Mary B. Martin.
Right, because many of the teachers and many of the kids were transferred to Mary B. Martin, but not all of them.
Right.
But the model of it being a very robust program, like, you know, working in the library and doing incentives for the kids and all kinds of stuff, kind of shrunk
Didn't
to
last.
having tutors.
Yeah, didn't last.
Which is an awesome thing, but it's, you know, it's different than having a more full school involvement.
It did
And
not
so
last.
around that time, we were plugging along with Mary Ellen, what was it, about 4 tutors or something?
Yeah.
Then Kalila Worley from Greater Cleveland Congregations came to our congregation and said, one of the schools that we would really like to be working with is FDR. It's, you know, kind of within Cleveland land. It, you know, it's one of those schools that things aren't going well, but they've made some progress. So they seem to be on the cusp and could really benefit from some support. And there were a few connections there. Erica Brown was already working there a little bit. And So we checked in with you and the other tutors at Mary B. Martin and talked about making that transfer. And Mary Ellen, bless your loyalty and commitment, you kept going at Mary B. Martin and came over to FDR as well.
Still will be once the pandemic's over.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that has changed everything. No in-person stuff. Cleveland has been virtual until just a week or so ago, and now they're gradually phasing in. And so, yeah. Tutoring wasn't happening. The school musical wasn't happening. The 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C. wasn't happening. You know, everything that we had usually been
And
involved.
these are things we had been doing with FDR. Right.
Right. So we've recently reconnected with the principal and the new wraparound coordinator, who was fabulous, and asked the principal, how do you see us helping this year? And she was like, I have something for you. Our 8th graders would love to have a yearbook. And when you think about it, granted, there's a lot of movement back and forth, moving and all that sort of thing, but the elementaries in Cleveland by and large are pre-K to 8. So a number of the 8th graders, this has been their only school experience, and they are being launched, and they would love to have a yearbook. The other amazing thing is, speaking of amazing people in our congregation, Heather Torek.
Yes, we got
Heather
her to step
Torek
up.
is just a gem. And so she, in her life, had a little window of some time just about now. And she's an amazing amateur photographer, and she really gets working with systems and kids and schools and all that kind of stuff. So she has been volunteered to be the main point person. And so they're right now in the process of taking individual kid pictures outside, because the like Life Touch and other places won't do photos this year. And working with the kids, with the 8th graders, to identify, you know, a title for everybody in the class, so nobody's left out, you know, most likely to succeed, most likely to be on stand-up comedy, doing hip hop. I don't know what all their categories are going to be, but it has really been fun. And I think you all know that we're at the tail end of a fundraiser for that. And as of tonight, thanks to some generous donors, we have met our goal. But of course, if anybody wanted to contribute more, we will find good use for it at FDR. You know we will. But that's that. I can't wait to see what that copy looks like.
Laura, we have a few more questions for you, so I think we ought to move on. Thank you, Mary Ellen.
Thanks,
Next question is from Carol Gay. Carol, you're on with Laurie Albright. What do you got?
Hi, Laurie. I never get to ask questions at these things. So what book has spoken to you recently, similar to how the new Jim Crow did some years back?
Oh, probably. So you want to talk about racism? Is
Okay.
one. So you want to talk about race, and the other is Bettina Love's we want to do more than survive, abolitionist teaching and the pursuit of educational freedom. Those 2 books are pretty inspiring.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, the book that spoke to me most recently was The Origins of the Justice League of America, but never mind. Mine's almost as heavy as yours, Laurie. Next question comes from Allison Bastian. Allison, you're on with Laurie. What do you got?
Hi, Laurie. Hi.
Allison.
So this is a serious question up the alley of what David was talking about. Being that you're from Toledo, have you ever met Corporal Klinger, AKA Jamie Farr?
No, and I've never even been to the hot dog
Tony
restaurant.
Pacos or whatever it's
Pacos,
called. Yeah. Aw.
Yeah, I don't remember the dates of the TV show, but I was not aware of that show until after I left Cleveland or Toledo. So
Okay. Yeah.
You know,
All
I
the
will point
reruns
out
are on TV Land, I think.
that show was on broadcast TV, not cable, so you could have caught that one, Laurie, but never mind. Our next question is from Mark Weber. Mark, you're on the air with Laurie Albright, and I'm hoping you can ask your question as a question and not in the form of a lecture.
Oh, well, there's no fun in that, Dave.
Yeah, but we do have a time constraint here.
Well, Laurie, since we would agree that racism is systemic, how do you connect reforms like bail reform or other issues with the enormity of the oppression of people of color? The job is big and the steps forward sometimes seem like baby steps. What are your thoughts or feelings on that?
Oh, Mark, you just asked the simple questions. You know?
Yeah, straightforward, narrow answer, small scope. Yeah, really.
Okay, I will make this as brief as I can. I think the zeitgeist is there. You know, I think there's much more conversation about this than there ever has been before. And Illinois at the state legislature passed the abolition of cash bail. So the decision to keep somebody pre-trial is actually going to be based on community safety, not whether they're poor or not. And if it can happen in Illinois, I believe it can happen in other places. And we're engaged in a lot of the groundwork with that. And certainly the extraordinary incarceration of Black and brown people in this country is but one of many elements of systemic racism.
Thanks, Laurie.
Yeah.
Math was on from 72 to 83, Laurie. So you were not that far from Toledo when the show came on TV.
Okay.
We have time for one last question, and it comes from Nancy. Nancy, you are on with Laurie Albright. What do you have for her?
Oh, Laurie, you inspire me, your social justice passion and all you do for us and the world is fabulous. I want to know what you do for fun.
I do some of my action verbs that I listed earlier. I read, I walk, I eat, I drink wine, I go to movies. Well, I don't go to movies. I watch movies in my living room. I love being out in nature. I travel. Yeah, really, the bottom line is being outside is what, whenever I get funky, I just have to be outside.
Yeah, got you there. That's great.
Thanks, Laurie. So we had no comments or questions for this evening. I didn't prompt you for anything, so we have none of that for this evening. For future shows, if you have comments or questions to share, please send them to Zoom-In, ZOOMIN, at uucleveland.org. Again, that is Zoom-In, ZOOMIN, at uucleveland.org. We will, of course, read whatever you send to us if you want to send it to us. So, Laurie, thank you for being our special guest tonight. Claudia, what's up next time?
Our next show will be on Monday, April 12th with special guest Mary Schatzman. And Mary is another one of our congregational leaders, both with UUCC and with the Society. She served as the board president of the Society during the reunification conversations and served as a member of the reunification task force and served as a member of the initial UUCC board, where among other activities, she served as a member of the Leadership Council. Oh, and David wants me to say that he really doesn't know Mary that well, except that she's kind and smart and a committed leader who he's looking forward to getting to know better. So join David in 3 weeks for the next episode of UUCC Zoom-In Live.
Thanks, Claudia. Well, we're running out of show, gang, as we always do. So, gang, let's give a major league round of applause to Liz Kantor, our producer. As I say, each show, I
Yay.
do the
Thank
easy
you,
stuff.
Liz.
Liz and our other producer, Carol Gay, do all the hard work to make sure things happen. So tonight, thank you, Liz. And as a reminder, if you'd like to catch up with your fellow congregants after the show, just stay right here for a chance to chat with your fellow UUs. Liz will get you squared away following our wrap-up music. Speaking of which, we're going to leave you tonight to a song called Stand By Me by Ben E. King, not B-E-N-N-Y, Ben, the letter capital E, King. If you hang around, you'll be smiling wide, listen to the music in just a few seconds. We're looking forward to seeing you in 3 weeks, the next episode of UUCC Zoom-In Live. Laurie and Claudia, say good night, please. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. Oh, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, or the mountain should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. And darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now. Stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me. Whenever you're in trouble, won't you stand by me? Oh, stand by me. Whoa,
Hi.
Hi.
How
Hi,
are you?
Mom. Is Grandma still with you?
What's that?
Is Grandma still there?
No, Grandma's, she watched from home.
Oh, she tuned in. That's
Yeah,
cool.
she did. She put it in the chat.
What? Oh, you're cutting out or my internet's cutting out?
Allison, you
Something's
should be
cutting
able
out.
to turn on your camera now.
Oh, there I am. Okay. Oh,
All right,
okay.
Allison, you're now officially in charge.
Oh, I am? Oh,
You
geez.
are now the host.
You can make me the host if you want.
When? Yeah. Okay.
I mean, all that being the host means is that when you leave, the meeting ends.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if,
yeah.
you,
Yeah.
if you want to leave before everybody else, just make somebody else the host, and then it will go on forever. Lou, your locks do look flowing and luscious, and you look nothing like Willie Nelson. That was slanderous, and I won't have it.
We have to turn the light on here.
Those who defended my long hair. I have not been to a barber since 2019.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
well, I.
Oh, wow.
Was this like a goal of yours to grow out your luscious locks, or?